If you will find the time is 4 o'clock, when the nation starts to free the mind, free the mind. There are many shows on the airwaves, but not like free mind. Just every dial you will find, not like free mind. From the ghetto. I need you to help me recap.
Like I always tell people, just how you do a physical every year, you should always do a mental health check-in.
So are you saying that the numbers are growing when it comes to that check-in?
From what I've seen in my practice during this time is that people are taking mental health more seriously. They are spending time getting to know each other and knowing themselves, because now we're in a situation where we're forced to. So when people really sit down to deal with themselves, what they realize is that maybe I'm not okay. It's about that time. It's about that time. It's about that time. It's about that time. Star 106 Hits Pleasant Tuesday. Good afternoon to you and welcome to another edition of Free Your Mind, brought to you courtesy of the fine folks at Sunrise Cafe number 2. They're located in the Epic Battery Plaza on Fire Trail Road. Yes, indeed. So all your favorites are now served in the South. Or if you want to say in the West, the Southwest, they got you. All right. And of course, I'm pleased to announce that they will be opening this Saturday, starting this Saturday. So, Marcus, if you're listening, I'm going to need you to post the time, the Saturday hours for me. All right. It's also being brought to you courtesy of Costright. Want to say thank you to Pinder Child. One time for Muffler World. Boost Academy. Still got a few spaces between grade 7 and 12. So if you're interested in that modern day learning atmosphere, then you definitely want to log on to www.boostbahamas.com. And of course, Lactogen, distributed by Lightborns Trading. I want to say good afternoon to all locked and loaded, channel 976 on cable. One time for all of those that are listening via Star 106's Facebook page and my very own personal page, Natural Empress, on Facebook as well. So I've been kind of making sure all from Friday that you realize that we have a very special guest, and it's always a pleasure to have her in our company. Mind you, it's virtual, but nevertheless, you are here. Good afternoon to you, Dr. E.
Hi, good afternoon. Thanks for having me.
It is indeed always a pleasure, and especially during this pandemic, which I think a lot have possibly, they're now realizing that it is going to be here longer than intended, longer than most people thought. So now, mentally, we have to wrap our minds around it, and we just have to learn to live with it. Now, that's just one thing. From last week, Tuesday, DJ Beats and myself have been talking a lot about how relationships have been, for the most part, suffering, not even realizing how much COVID has impacted their relationships, as well as everything else that existed prior to COVID. So it's now an amalgamation of various things. So I said, you know what? We're going to discuss these things amongst ourselves, but we're going to bring in the expert on Tuesday. So it's good to have you. But what I want I'm going to kind of recap. Beats is here with me to kind of remind me of all the things that we spoke about, and then we'll just bring you right in. So, Beats, afternoon to you. Good to have you as always.
Good afternoon, Natural Empress. Good afternoon, Dr. E. Good afternoon, Free Your Mind listeners. Now, over the past week,
recap for me.
We went in depth for a lot of topics pertaining to relationships. Topics in relation to should a man perceive it as disrespect if his woman or his partner goes out to secure finances that are going to benefit the two of them?
Yes, I remember that. I remember
in
that.
the long run.
Yeah, Dr. E, plenty of people ain't working. We gonna call it like it is. And by any means necessary, We're gonna get it. That was one we spoke about. What else did we talk about?
Another topic we went into is step families, and should there be a mark of demarcation between what is your real family and the step family?
Ooh, we talked about that.
Yeah, the step brothers. I think PJ brought that on.
Oh, yes. We talked about flirting.
Right.
All right, and what's considered flirting.
We also talked about keeping secrets in a relationship.
Hallelujah.
Mm.
Yes, we spoke about keeping secrets. We spoke, what was it yesterday? Oh, whether how important is it to know the persons who preceded in terms of your
Bliss.
yes,
So,
do you check the last two, the one that came before you? How far back do you
Yeah.
go? Because it seems as if a lot of people are insecure based on your previous life. So
Right.
we got a myriad, and we've got a whole melting pot for you to deal with today. I don't know, take it away wherever you want to start, but those are the things inquiring minds want to know. And like I said, Beats and I, amongst PJ, Fuego, we've been discussing it amongst ourselves, but of course now it's time to bring in the professional.
I'm curious about the one in regards to which family. I think that one stands out to me the most. Which family is your real family? If it's your step kid versus. Explain. Maybe I need more context with that, because when you get married, that is your family.
You're right.
That's your family. So if you had kids prior to marriage, they're still a part of the new family. But that's it. Everybody else is now an extension to that. So
Now
the family is the new married family, inclusive of any kids, biological or adopted, whatever form of kids. That's the family. Everybody else is extra. That includes your parents. Let me be clear on that. Because we have an idea in this country that when we get married, we married a whole entire system. And our spouses have to join that new system, when in actuality, our spouses are our priority. The other people, and I say other people, are the extended family, but we don't think about it like that. Because I've seen too many households where it's almost like the spouse has to fight for attention because of either mother or father and their needs. And that's a bit confusing.
Well, that's a real. You hit it on the head, because there are a lot of marriages that are suffering because you have mothers in particular, who, and fathers too, who believe that their needs come first. Well, that's my child, so I ain't got no job during COVID. I'm gonna need him to pay my bills. I spoke to a young lady the other day who told me that her marriage was totally shot because of the same thing. The mother's needs came first, and she just had enough.
So then essentially that she's the side chick.
Man, stop it.
So she came into a system then. Because essentially what she would have done is she came into the system, and then she had to follow aligned with the system. So she's the option or the side person. She's not the original.
So you're calling the mother the side chick?
No. The wife is the side chick.
Oh, the wife is the side chick.
The mother is the main person, because if that's the person who gets the attention, that's the person whose needs become first over your spouse, then that means that your spouse is the other.
My Lord. Are you finding now, in the midst of this pandemic, are you finding that people, and I'm kind of happy to hear the PSAs that are now on the radio, are you finding that persons are truly tapping more into mental health? Because if you do, then maybe you're able to solve some of these issues that plague.
Are you talking about the You Matter campaign?
Yes.
That was part of my brain. You didn't know that, hey? Yes, I wrote.
Hold on, let me pick up my jaw. Hold on. Really? Congratulations.
Yes, I wrote those because my thing was, when I was talking to Al the other day, I was just like, we have to do something, because the amount of cases we're having lately with suicidal attempts, the ones we know about, as well as just the other concerns that I'm seeing on a daily basis, we can't wait anymore for other people to do stuff. We have to figure out how we can get this information out there that everybody matters and we need some help and attention right now, and anything we can do. And so I was so glad that stations like yours and others wanted to be a part of this, because we're in a mental health crisis. After any pandemic, after any storm, there's always a mental health wave. So the numbers have increased. The numbers have, one of my clients asked me yesterday, I was like, I have no space this week. I have no space next week. I could schedule in 2 weeks out. Like that's how busy things have been. And while it's good on a business end, at the other end, it's alarming for the high increase of need for services, if that makes sense. So that can tell you where we're at as a country.
Well, I'm happy to know that a lot of persons are taking advantage of it, and not only that, the stigma is somewhat being erased, because again, if you go and see a therapist, and the word therapist seems to be more palatable for most versus psychiatrist, psychologist, counselor, even therapist seems to be easier on the air. I don't know, or I don't know what it is, but to know that people are actually taking advantage of it is something to be applauded. I mean, you usually are American folks, they make sure that the kids see the therapist once a week. Families, married couples, we don't do that. But for you to say that you are double booked, even you got to find time for people nowadays, that's something to be applauded.
I think we are starting to realize that. I was watching something earlier this morning. It was talking about the good thing I have to say about millennials and then Gen Zs, I think it is that they are now taking mental health much more seriously. They are no longer being a part of the older generation's idea that if I reach out for help, that means something is wrong. And meaning like this whole, like the family must collapse.
But what if things do happen the same way you go to a medical doctor is because something is wrong? What is the difference? What is the fundamental difference between I feel this pain in my side versus this pain in my heart?
There is no difference. I think we have talked about it for so long to make it feel as if you have to have something catastrophically wrong with you if you're going to see a therapist. And honestly, the majority of people, even during now in this COVID time, I find that it's not extreme mental health issues. It's the fact that I can no longer run for myself. And so I need to deal with some stuff that's been going on with me that maybe I haven't talked about, I haven't processed, or I'm overwhelmed. My kids are at home, my partner's at home. And quite frankly, I just need someone to talk to who's somebody else outside of the house. And so I can honestly say that people are taking, I call it self-care, because what else is it but when you go to a therapist? It's self-care. I'm sitting there that whole time focused on you, undivided attention for you. This is all about you. Why wouldn't you want to do it?
Let's take a break on that. I want to play this Gnarls Barkley right here. This is your hit station. We are Star 106 Hits. I remember when there was something so pleasant about that place. We're going to go into a quick commercial break.
Okay.
And then we come back.
When you're out there without care, I was out on time. But it wasn't because I didn't know enough. I just knew too much. Does that make me crazy? Does that make me crazy? Does that make me crazy? Star 106 Hits, music in from Gnarls Barkley, aka Stilo with Crazy. We're going to take a quick break, and of course, we're going to find out what's happening on the streets of Nassau right now. Your traffic report coming your way, and then of course, we're going to jump right back into it with Dr. E right here on Free Your Mind. It's a Thoughtful Tuesday. We'll be right back.
Light day 4 traffic so far, totally different from yesterday at the same time. In simple terms, there's not as many cars in the streets as there was yesterday. There are pockets of slowdowns and congestion areas, but nothing that will be lengthy or extensive. Traffic really slowed around University and segments of Oak Road traffic is really slowed a bit. But moving, the same thing is happening along Mackey Street and Marathon Road. Has that bumper-to-bumper traffic in both directions. Still no hang-up. It's moving over there as well. Traffic really slows on Blue Hill Road, south of Robinson Road. That dual lane getting into the roundabout is really slowed down. It will take some time passing through there. The lengthy, slow dual lane traffic on the Independence Drive eastbound, fully getting into the roundabout at East Street and over the west end of 25th Highway as a mile up the roundabout. There's a lengthy backup line of development there as well on 2020 westbound lanes. In fact, all the sides of that roundabout is busy with lengthy lines of traffic. Carmichael Road has that usual moving flow of traffic that happens in both directions. At the same time, the same thing is going on East Street. There's no heavy congestion, maybe some slow up, but you will get through there with a moderate pace as well. This National Traffic Report is service of J.S. Johnson. At J.S. Johnson, you can pay premiums in Review Falls at any branch office, paid your own way. Use online banking or to local bank. Call J.S. Johnson to 397-2100 for more info. With your riding scan look at traffic, MTA Tumble Back in an hour with an update.
It's so nice they had to do it twice. Sunrise Cafe has opened its second location on Fire Trail Road in the Epic Battery Plaza, serving all your favorites, including their famous stuffed snapper, fettuccine, and other pastas, rack of lamb, and all your deli sandwiches and salads. Freshly prepared, tons of healthy options for all of those that want to maintain a healthy lifestyle. Sunrise Cafe #2. Calling your order at 341-4302.
Pinatar has a huge selection of porcelain floor coverings, from highly polished 2x2s to 2x2s with a cross-colored vein look to 2x2s with the look of wood. There's also a whole ton of porcelain in other shapes and sizes, like the 12x24 heavily textured tile in different colors. Now, when I say heavily textured, I mean it has a corduroy, but maybe not corduroy, more like a woven look and feel. Really different, and I imagine they should feel quite nice underfoot. Stop by Pinatar and have a look at all the porcelain.
You drive with Castrol now.
The last one.
Castrol CRV Diesel. Yes, Bay Street Garage invites you to save big with Castrol CRV Diesel. When you buy a 5-gallon pail of CRV Turbo Max 15W40 or CRV Monograde 40, you get 4 quarts of CRV Monograde 40 absolutely free. Yes, free. A $44 value for you while supplies last. Certain restrictions apply. Call Bay Street Garage for suggested retail prices on Castrol lubricants.
24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. This is the home of today's hit music and yesterday's favorites. Star 106.5 FM.
Welcome back. This is a Free Your Mind on a Tuesday. Again, I want to thank today's guest for taking time out here. She got a busy schedule. People are now understanding the need of tapping into not only just their physical health, but their mental health. And Bahamians are finally getting it. This is obviously something that we should celebrate, shouldn't we?
We should. And this is why we should communicate more about what mental health is, because I think we don't really have an idea of what it means. But when you think of mental health, think of the fact that without your mind, which consists of your brain, nothing else in your body functions. So you have to have that in accordance with your body, in alignment, so that things can function normally. So when we talk about mental health, that's meaning that you are thinking clearly, you are behaving socially acceptable, I want to say, and that your emotions can be acknowledged, communicated. And so that's what it means to be mentally healthy. Can you talk about it? Can you, are you able to cry or write it out? Are you just holding it all in all the time? Are you always easily angered? We can see with the amount of, what happened yesterday speaks volumes to where our country is at with how people are really resolving conflict. So we have to do something, and we can no longer stand by and pretend that mental health issues are not a thing in the Bahamas. They're a huge thing.
I was just about to say it's a foreign thing, you know. Now, you use yesterday's event as an example, which happens all day, every day around the length and breadth of this country. Um, as a therapist and as a professional, how are you finding men in particular when it comes to them being able to express themselves? How open are you finding today's Bahamian man opening up and even coming to sessions without thinking that either one, it's a woman's thing, or two, only soft fellas is do that, or three, um, we just don't do that. That's just not a part of our culture. How often are they truly logging on now?
I think men are actually the highest growing population I'm seeing now in therapy, especially young men, meaning like anywhere between, I would say, 20 to 40. You'd be surprised. And ladies, that's the ones you want to date, the ones that are actually checking in on their mental health.
I can't with you today. I can't.
Yes, because but the irony is like the older ones need more of an adjustment. But I found like I had a new couple last week, and the guy was like, "My time is up." I was like, "Yeah," and he can't wait to come back because he just wanted somebody was listening to him. So I find that men just need to have the right conditions, and they are more than willing to open up and communicate. And to the point that sometimes I'm like, "Okay, hold on, let your wife talk."
No, but then remember now, I think the hardest part or the task is to get a man to understand that we need to do this, or
Right.
you need to do this, depending on what the situation is. So my question is, how apt are they to doing it without being dragged in by a crane?
Well, see, I think that's the issue because the priorities need to be shifted a bit because I find that, especially right now, and I get it, we're in a pandemic, so most people, their first need is survival resources. And so everyone's trying to figure out how to make a little bit extra money right now, or if the business is slow, how are they going to get out there and focus on that? Because everyone's goal right now is providing. How do I provide so that my family is okay? I think for those men in relationships, your only identity cannot be providing for your relationship, because if COVID has taught you anything, there is a strong possibility that you might have lost your identity right now. And as a result of it, your relationship is probably not in the best state because you're frustrated, you're angry that you aren't producing the way you should be, or you think you should be. Because maybe you have a strong partner who's holding it all down right now financially.
All right, let's talk about that strong individual. Are most men intimidated? And everything that I'm talking about, I want you to kind of, for the most part, just keep it here at home.
Okay.
Do you find that most Bahamian men are intimidated by the strong one?
Okay.
Go ahead. You can breathe.
Yeah.
You can swallow. Do all that you got to do before you answer.
Yes. And I'm saying that because I found lately, I've had a series of couples where the wife has been the primary provider in the dynamic, and it's creating lots of issues within the system because it's almost that I want you to take care of this, but you can't be in charge of everything else we're doing. But the irony is, if the shoe was on the other foot, that they would want to be in charge of everything.
Okay, so in other words, if it is that, let's say again, bring it home, COVID, the wife is the only one working, and we did have this. DJ Beats just walked back in the studio. We did have this conversation before. Is the man still the head of the household, even if the woman is quote unquote the head breadwinner or the only breadwinner? Do we still pay homage, and do we still deem that man the head of the household? Is that one of the issues that we have in the Bahamian household, where the man feels less of because either one, she's very strong, or two, or both, she's the breadwinner?
I think we have to change that whole language. I think the relationship should be the head of the household. I think that what should happen then is that when it comes to particular tasks, you need to identify who's the strongest in the role. Because, for instance, let's say traditional, you want to have a traditional role system within your household, does that mean automatically that in every opportunity you aren't allowed as the woman to make any decisions? Or
You have some households like that.
right, and if that works for them, that is fine. I have no problem for that. But we have to get away from the idea that a person needs to be in charge. Why can't the relationship be in charge? Because the relationship's strong anyway. Aren't you going to default to the person who is, or the person who's better at that role at that time?
But that takes somewhat of surrendering, and I think a lot of people have a problem relinquishing
Control.
that particular,
Mm-hmm. And so then the question is that if your identity or your strength in the relationship is only based on your ability to be the head of something, then your head too small.
which I can behave. I promise you I can behave. I am going to behave. Okay, so in other words, one has to broaden the scope as to how they think.
That's actually emotional intelligence. That's the idea that you're so in tune and in touch with reality and your sense of self, that if your sense of self is only connected to a role, then you're really smaller than you realize. Because at some point, and COVID is a very good indicator, at some point your role is probably going to change. That doesn't mean you lose any power within that conversations or the ability to make decisions. Why would that change?
What's your take on submission? Because
Okay.
I don't think submission and a submissive woman is very easy to find in today's world and in today's Bahamas.
It depends on how we define submission, I think. So
Okay, go ahead.
even the strongest of women will agree with me and are willing to submit to a person who can lead properly and lead accordingly. And what I mean by that is that if you are only leading by, I want to say, force, then you're not really a good leader, because all good leaders know that you empower the people around you. So at times they too have the ability and the knowledge and the know-how to lead. So if submission is only do what I say when I say it and how I say it, that's not actually the real definition of, and most people say the biblical definition of submission. They need to read that again, because that's not what it was meant. And I actually did a marriage conference earlier this year, and all the pastors were like, they had to redefine it because people didn't understand. They think submission is this idea that you must do exactly as I say, walk this way, talk this way, dress this way. And they're like, that's not what was meant in the biblical sense of it, because you're both, the wife is supposed to be the helpmate, and if you love her like you love the church, then there's no way that you want her to almost like bow down to you. That is just not what that means. So, but I think people have the wrong idea of what submission is. But I think even the strongest of women are willing to submit. I'm sure I'm talking about women who got it together, and if they have no problem in acting like a very special blonde person when they get home. If they have somebody who can be the CEO of the house, they have no problem in doing that.
Being Barbie?
Barbie. I don't even know how to change a light bulb.
Dr. E, let's take a break again. This is Free Your Mind. We got Dr. E, the therapist, right here on Free Your Mind. Stay tuned. Go ahead.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, Dr. E.
Hi, how
Um,
are you?
I'm great actually. Since I have you, we're still live on Facebook and on our
Okay.
YouTube page,
Yes.
Okay,
but we're not live on air. So I just wanted to ask you some questions.
sure.
In your professional opinion, do you think that there is a significant amount of Bahamians with undiagnosed minor mental afflictions?
Yes.
For
And I
example,
Go ahead.
ADHD,
Mhm.
adult ADHD, or borderline personality disorder, things like that.
I do think there is, and I think it's because we don't have an understanding of what are some of the symptoms of the mental health disorders and the spectrum of that. Like for adult ADHD, for example, it's not going to look like it looks in a child where you could get it easily diagnosed because the child is like in school, and so they're not sitting down or maybe bouncing off the walls. In adults, it's going to look a little different. It's going to be work performance issues or inability to keep a job. Same thing with borderline stuff, because you might really like that clingy girlfriend until all of a sudden she turns.
Oh boy. Thank you.
Star 106 hits. So welcome back. We've got Dr. E with us. We got to utilize this time wisely. She's been very busy. Very, very busy lately. And it's awesome to hear that. I'm glad that you're not sitting in office twiddling your thumbs. Now people are getting the true essence and understanding of the importance of mental health. Tell me, I just want to get your quick reaction. A happy wife is a happy life. What sayeth you on that?
Oh, I believe that 100%.
Say it again?
I believe that 100%, but I also believe too, the what should be the counter of that is that if your wife is happy, I think that would automatically mean the husband is happy too, right?
I don't know, because again, we had a situation. Beats and I were talking late last week, and he was saying that whatever his wife, whatever it takes to make her happy, he's going to do. So if she's upset about someone who he, is cool with, but she don't like the person, then he's going to, that's what we were talking about.
Right.
Then he is going to simply stop talking to that person if needs be, in order for him to come home to some level of equilibrium, for him to come home to solace, for him to come home to open arms versus a pinned up lip. You know what I mean? So does it mean that sometimes someone has to suck it up in order to make, fellas that is, have to suck it up in order to make this wife happy, going against the grain and going against what possibly comes natural to him and how he feels?
I think both partners have to do that at times, but for men in particular, I feel like if you do that and you're compromising a bit, that doesn't mean you're necessarily compromising yourself. I think we need to separate the two, though, because if you and your partner are one, if somebody is not in alignment with them, then they against both of y'all in the first place, because y'all a team. So would it make sense that you wouldn't want to hang out with that person anyway, because they're saying like the person who is an extension of you isn't good people?
And some would pretty much look at it as you asking me to choose. Me and that person, like the example he used, or I think it was PJ said, me and that person grew up. We were boys, from that time. We used to play hopscotch and hockey. You know what I mean?
Right.
And now you're uncomfortable with this female because you say your spirit just don't yuck with hers. Whatever the case may be. He's saying he would just, minimize the amount of times that he would see this person or talk to them, versus trying to get his wife to understand that this person just cool.
So he's lying, man. So essentially what he's doing is lying for the sake of the marriage. So you already started off on the wrong precedent, because at some point and I don't know why people think that somebody is going to find out, and especially men, let me just tell y'all, this is a secret that women know. We notice your behavior faster than you realize. I've only met about the very small, minute population of a man who can really hide it. Most men at a certain point get so careless, or they just can't be worried about the details. So it gets found out. Now you're in a bigger issue, because now you hide in this relationship, and it's going to seem like something that it really wasn't, when you just should have said, well, what's the real issue? Is there any way you could fix this? Because maybe your wife insecure, maybe she's the one who really have the issue.
Well, how do you fix that?
Then you probably need to send her to go get some help. But that's the thing. If somebody is threatening your spouse, threatening to the relationship, the question is, why do they feel threatened? Is it anything that you can do to help them feel more secure in the relationship? Do you need to include them more in decisions or stuff with this other person? Because I don't, when people say they get new friends, right? all of a sudden you get a new friend and it's the opposite sex friend and I can't meet them. That's a problem. Why? Because so a few weeks ago I had a couple like that, and all of a sudden one of the partners just got this new friend, but this friend wasn't new because apparently they've been friends with this person, new in the fact that they've been friends with this person for the last year. The spouse just didn't know, and so the spouse found out because, like usual, the person just brought it up in conversation because they forgot, and it was like, oh, what is this person? Oh yeah, like we've been friends, and this person been helping me with some stuff. So somebody always gets sloppy, and it was like, oh, and so it was just like, well, why haven't I been introduced? Can we meet? And it was like, oh, the person just said, I'll back off so you don't get in trouble. And I'm like, I try not to like.
You looking for a scrap.
Exactly. And then what made it worse was that the spouse was trying to be protective of the other person and not their spouse. And to me, that's very
so what kind of advice or what did you have to say about that situation as the professional?
Well, I asked them about where was their alliance and how was that with their behavior, if they saw anything wrong in their behavior, and they said no. And I said,
so that just pretty much, I know therapists and I am a professional, but that seems to me as a recipe for disaster.
Well, now it does, and I had to explain to them, is now you're creating a situation where you have unnecessary trust issues and insecurities being created that weren't even there before. Because now when you tell me you go in so and so, I'm gonna ask you 5 questions. I'm gonna call you more, and now you're annoyed with me because of something you created unintentionally. Because if you would just tell me about this new friend, I would have no big deal because it was just somebody you would have mentioned before. Now I don't know.
So as the professional, once again, what was your take on it? Do you think he had something to hide, or do you think his wife is just insecure why he didn't even want her to know? It came out unfortunately. Or do you think, as you looking into the situation and examining it closely, do you think that was indeed the side chick?
I think in that particular case, I think the person has never learned to share information. There are a lot of people who are married and they get comfortable being married, and that's their only idea of marriage. Like, they don't actually think it requires work. So when they found this person they wanted to be with, and this person was almost like the list, they ticked everything off, they got married, it was good. So they didn't figure out after that they had to like share their life with their partner. So I honestly don't think that there was anything beyond like a professional relationship. But because of past behaviors, now it's going to put everything into question with this person. Because I just think this person is so focused on their goal. I don't even think they are thinking about another person. And that's what it is. They're just so singularly focused. And that happens a lot of times, that you are only focused on one thing, but now your relationship's sitting over here. And while you're not paying attention to it, somebody else is going to start paying attention to your relationship for you.
Absolutely. I need Beats to remind me. There was something that was said in the end of one of the shows last week. I think it was one of PJ's persons who said something about, what was it?
The left hand.
Oh, yes. Go ahead.
The left hand should never
let the
right
left hand
know.
Exactly.
Something like that.
And you're married. In other words, keeping secrets.
Oh, keeping secrets.
Never let the left hand know what the right hand doing.
How are you going to do that within a marriage, though? Or, I mean, shoot. So.
Let's say an extra bank account that the wife don't know about, and an additional cell phone. You know him to have a iPhone 10, but he have the latest Samsung that you didn't know about. You know what I mean? Or again, this new friend. What was the other example?
So
any one of those scenarios.
So I read a case about this the other day because one of my colleagues had one of these where the wife in the situation found it suspicious that like she heard this phone ringing, and what ended up happening was she went to put up some clothes, and in the sock drawer she found a phone, and it was the identical phone. She didn't realize at the time. She was like, "Well, why is his phone in the sock drawer?" So she picked up the phone, opened the phone, and saw these pictures and these messages. and went into the bathroom because he was taking a shower. He grabbed the phone, closed the door, came back out, and gave her the phone. But he switched. He gave her the original.
Yeah. I get it.
Phones.
He got game. That fella got game.
But the irony of all of this was that now you got sloppy. So now the person is on your tail, and it started a whole, let's say, spy game because now your spouse started the investigation and found out, or the client I have who knows that their partner have the secret bank account, but the partner just don't know yet. So when that one blows, it's going to be interesting.
As the saga continues.
You could try your best, but what eventually happens is that most people aren't detail oriented enough to remember the minute details. This is what happens with lies. You have to follow it up with another lie, and then you have to remember the last one you told and always keep it the same, because at some point, if you slip up, the person is going to get you. And they're not going you. But
why is it that most people who are unhappy in their relationships, as life is this short, why do people choose to stay in unhappy situations? And what advice do you have for people who do that rather than to go out and live your life? I mean, there are people who say, well, you don't want the kids to feel no type of way, so you stay for the kids' sake. And why is it that a lot of people, I know this is a lot in one breath, but why is it that a lot of people, when they do step out on their significant other, it always seems as if the person is not on par with the one that you step out on?
The last part is usually because it's the thrill and convenience sometimes. Usually it's the easiest person who you have access to. So it doesn't even have to be the good looking person or the smart person. Sometimes it's just the person who's there. Literally. Like, I've heard those stories.
They just have to have a female or a male apparatus.
Right. That's literally it. Or for my client,
functioning, working.
Accidentally gave the other person a situation, and so that's how they found out that something was happening. But yeah, that happens a lot, that they just went over somebody for convenience. And so usually it's needs aren't being met, and nobody wants to talk about the fact that their needs aren't being met, or maybe they've tried to communicate their needs to their partner and the person's just like not paying attention. But I had a wife recently tell me that the only reason, like, she's not happy at all in the relationship, but she's staying because at first she stayed for the kids. The kids are older now, but she's staying because, well, her partner is a good provider, and she just hopes that the providing will equal that they'll travel around the world one day, but they don't really have no relationship.
She don't realize, traveling in COVID. Where's she going?
She's hoping that something will change in their relationship, and that's what made it worse. Now, COVID, because the work is slowed down on her end, especially, and the partner is still working and providing. He provides everything, and that the only thing she could say to me is good about the relationship is that he is a good provider. And I said, so what else? And then she said, I have nothing.
She goes quiet.
I have nothing else. She said he provides. That's what he does.
So, okay, let's look at this real quick. Let's use that particular scenario. He's a good provider. How does one give of self? Because as the wife, you have got to fulfill wifely duties. You have to be able to, participate in the horizontal hokey pokey. How do you do that?
Empress, we've known plenty people who participate and who ain't there. Their body there, but their mind is not there.
Not your body's here with me, but your mind is on the other side of town.
And that's what happens a lot of times. And so they could perform their duties, and there's no connection in it. And hence why the other person usually at some point feels the disconnection and goes out and participates in it outside of the home situation, because nobody want to talk about the real issue, but they still want to get their needs met.
So and this is as we wrap up, because I'm gonna need you to come again, but how do you get people to understand the importance of freeing their mind, having conversations, uncomfortable ones if necessary?
The first thing I try to do is create the safety and the environment for them to do it, by establishing for them that this is just a safe place to do it. And the only investment is in them getting better or freeing their minds to the place where they realize that everything that's on their mind is a part of who they are. And if they hold on to it, it can make them sick, literally. And if they release it and let go of it, they can grow and move on as a person. But if people continue to hold on to that negativity, I think Beats was asking me while we were off air, it could literally turn into a mental health issue. Those little things pile up, and then you might really need a psychiatrist is correct, because you might help yourself get right into hospitalization if you don't deal with the stuff on your mind. And it's the little things that pile up over time.
So again, as the PSAs are played all over various radio stations, in terms of mental health, your final analysis and what you want people to hold on to in terms of this conversation today, what do you want people to remember most?
I first want to say World Mental Health Day is on the 10th of October. So
I need you back then, whenever that is. Whatever day of the week, even if it's Sunday, I'll come.
That's Saturday, but we can do it before that. But we're going to do it on the day before that. But
Okay.
Well, essentially, what it is, what I want people to understand is that we all need a little help sometimes, and that you matter right now. So you really have to check in with you. Take 5 minutes, go in the mirror, and if you could stand 5 minutes in the mirror with yourself, you're doing really good. Because believe it or not, a lot of people on a daily basis pass a mirror, or they look in a mirror and they don't see themselves. I mean, really look at yourself and can identify and say 5 positive things about you. Don't have to think about it. If you do have to struggle with those 5 things, that you probably have some self-work you need to do on, so you can grow and understand the essence that makes you, so you can free your mind and free the social stigmas of everything in regards to it, because you matter. We all want you to be here. We all struggling now. And so this is so normal. Like, talk to us about it. Everyone going through a little something right now. Everybody.
And for those that want to get that help, how do they find you?
They can give me a call at 425-0718. Or
See your phone going off now.
That's my alert for my next appointment. It's 425-0718, or they can go to my website at www.rpc-ltd.com. It's rpc-ltd.com.
Beats, you got a question real quick? Go ahead. Final question. You didn't hear a phone going off. She got things.
Yeah, I know that the doctor's time is so precious. I just wanted to ask you a few short questions. Thank you.
Yeah,
First of all,
go
thank you very much.
A few?
Just a few short questions. And I know they're burning on a lot of people, because I see a lot of people in the live right now and they're afraid to ask. But just straight up, how does one know whether the difference between just feeling sad and the onset of depression?
The duration. The first clue is your duration. If every day you wake up it's a bad day or it's a sad day, and it's been happening for at least 2 weeks or more, then you're probably into depression. It's no longer just some sadness. And I mean consistency with it. So one of the things you want to look for is if your habits have changed and stuff like that, like sleeping more, eating less, not wanting to shower, those things will give you some indications.
All right, one more question. I'm not a medical professional. I'm not trained in therapy.
Get that.
How can I help someone? How can I help and speak to someone who maybe experience a mental health problem like depression or anxiety?
You can try to just sit and talk with them and ask them about what's going on with them right now. Sometimes that means sharing your story so you can relate to them a little bit and show them some empathy. So just some understanding for what they're going through. And when all else fails, please get them some help. The numbers are around. I think one of the things I'm hoping we do as a country is that speak up a little bit more. If you see somebody struggling, let's go ahead and call somebody to help them out, because there are resources and free services around. We got to utilize them. So
somebody's asking for your Facebook page info.
Okay, hold on. I'm never good at this. How?
Give them the number again then.
Yeah, it's on my, okay, I would do better at this. Okay, I have it now. So it is dr.edrich4.
Hold on, I'm gonna let Beats type that while you say it again.
Okay, it's dr.edrich4.
Okay, hold on. We're looking for it, so we can post it too.
Yeah, I shared your link for today. It's on there. Maybe.
He's got it. I'm gonna show
Okay.
you how good he is.
Awesome.
All right. So for all of those that are looking to get in contact with Dr. E, she's an awesome, awesome therapist, awesome lady, and got ears and shoulders like none other. So thank you so much. And
Thank
you
you.
said World Mental Health Day is October the 10th.
Yes, October the 10th is World Mental Health Day, and that's a day where we just want to help do what we can to eradicate the stigma even more. And I want to thank you guys at STAR for being a part of the You Matter, because we want to make sure we help our country so that we aren't having any more mental health issues that we need to have.
Dr. E, again, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. I look forward to the next one when you can find 45 minutes to an hour for me again.
I'm looking at the schedule right now. I will send you something.
I love it. Thank you so much. And folks, thank you so much for listening. I hope this was insightful. I hope it was definitely informative. And we look forward to the next time we get to chat with Dr. E. In the meantime, in between time, keep it locked. Top of the hour, 5 o'clock, your Drive at 5 with yours truly and DJ AI comes your way.
Like I always tell people, just how you do a physical every year, you should always do a mental health check-in. Like I always tell people, just how you do a physical